ask you a very direct question. Why do you do what you do as a worship team member? What are you in this for? What's the purpose? What's the real motive, the meaning behind what you're doing and what we're doing together? Well, let's think about it for a little bit. A number of years ago, I had a dream. Dreams can be very subjective. In this case, it was a very graphic teaching dream. I was standing in a circle with about 20 to 30 people who were a part of my extended worship team, worship community. And in that circle were other worship leaders, sound techs, visual techs, projectionists, musicians, electric guitar players, drummers, bass players. I even had some of our creative team, dancers and others, all in this circle in the dream. And we were standing in a circle holding hands. And all around us, the room was changing constantly. One moment, it was the stage of our church. One moment, the room would just change a millisecond later, and it was a hospital room. Then it was a living room. Then it was a flatbed truck outdoors. Then it was a concert hall. Then it was a recording studio. And this room around us just continued to change and change and change and change, while we stood in the center just quietly looking at one another. And here's what happened in the dream. I looked at everyone. We all met eyes, and I said, "Now why are we here?" And all of us in one accord said, "We are here to serve. We are here to serve." And I woke up from that dream with a deep sense in my own heart that the purpose, the meaning, why we do what we do as musicians, as creative people, as technical people, when we create these gathered worship spaces for our community, the reason that we do it is to serve the community that we are a part of in meeting with God, to serve God's mission, His purposes, in creating spaces where God can speak into the heart of His people and people can meet with God, where people can drink in the riches of the biblical story, where they can apply God's truths to their lives, where they can open up and yield themselves to God through the wide variety of creative means that we have at our disposal as worship teams, as creative communities. People open up their hearts, they yield to God. We give wings to their prayers through songs and music and art and visuals and sound. And we are serving the body of Christ. I deeply believe that worship is all about God. God also seems to make worship about us in the interaction. But worship leadership is all about those who we serve in our communities. We are creating spaces, we are facilitating platforms, forums, for people to come and say, as their heart is groaning with the psalmist, when can I go and meet with God? We as a team, as a community, all those elements coming together, we say, how about here, how about now? Let's all meet together with God. Let's resonate with His heart, with His story. Let's remember who He is and remember who we are in light of who He is. Let's remember who people are all around us as we sing, as we create, as we gather, as we worship and adore the living one, who's restoring and redeeming all of us in the room. Many years ago, a friend came up to me who was a photographer, and he had taken a picture, a cross-section of our church as I had been leading worship the week before. And in that image, I saw the local mechanic. I saw the truck driver. I saw the little children, and they had their little flags that they used in our worship setting. I saw people who had come from the home for the mentally handicapped just around the corner, all in this shot. I saw the guy who programmed the computers, a computer technologist for our regional system of hospitals. I saw single mothers. I saw, what seemed to be happy young families. I saw a couple who had just lost a child not too many months before that picture. And as I looked at that image, I thought, this is who we all lead worship for every Sunday. This is who we create the space for. There's a reason that when I'm building a set for that wide dynamic of people, that I'm not building it simply according to my preferences or what the band would love to play or what our favorite grooves and songs are to rock out on. That's not the point. The point is, are we creating a space for this diverse group of people to meet with God within, to celebrate, to mourn and grieve as things change in our communities, as situations happen with people, to gather to pray, to gather to sing the songs of Zion, to reclaim our faith together. That's why we do what we do. And I always say to worship musicians and team members, techs, worship leaders, anyone involved in worship ministry in our extended church, whether it's on a main stage or in a small group setting or in the women's ministry or the men's ministry or the kids ministry, wherever you find yourself ministering, using your musical or creative talents or technical talents to create a space for people to meet with God, I want to encourage you in this. At the end of every day, I believe we have a spiritual business card. And we love to write on it our name, and underneath it, I'm a guitar player, I'm a keyboard player, I'm a hammered dulcimer player. Oh, I love those. If you're there, just a shout out. Drummers, or bass player, I'm a kids worship leader, or I'm a sound, tech, and I do visual stuff, I'm a visual worship leader. All these different ideas come together and we try to get them on our business card, that spiritual business card. And at the end of every day, it's like we hand it to God and we say, look, Lord, aren't you proud of me? This is what I do, and I love doing it. It's so cool getting to play my licks and do all this kind of stuff and making it happen. And here's my card. Look, I'm actually faithful. I've been doing a lot of religious gymnastics lately, and isn't this cool? And God takes the card, and maybe not all of us are in that headspace. Maybe it's just an inner affirmation. We feel like we're valuable if we're doing all that stuff. But he takes the card and he smiles at us, and there's a well done, I believe, that emanates from his heart at the end of every day. But then it's like God turns around and you hear some racing going on. And he turns around, he hands you your card back, and he says, now have a good sleep. And I'm going to be watching over your life and your family and all the things you care about through the night, through those wee hours. I'm with you. But you're going to wake up with this in your hand. And you take that spiritual business card back, and what does it say? It just says your name. And it says son or daughter. That's it. This isn't because of what we do. It's because of who we are. This is what God is concerned about, our hearts. Now, I want you to hear me in something. I do believe God values how hard you've worked to get good at your instrument. How hard you've worked to do what you do well. I also believe that there is some merit to desiring to be in ministry roles and situations where you're developing and growing and supporting others, and we're working as a team. But I've watched the desire for platform, for a ministry, get a hold of people, and they start talking about, at least internally, or I hear it in their words, my ministry more than I'm hearing about Jesus' ministry working through me. We all have the same ministry. It's the ministry of Jesus. He expresses it differently through our unique personalities and gift sets. But the reality is you and I don't have our own ministry for us to cling to demand platform in, to say, you have to let me do this because this is my thing. This is where insecurity and identity issues and all those things start to show the motives of the heart. And we need to come to the place where we are as happy to step away from the platform, step away from the soundboard, from the projection, from that particular role as we are to stay in it. Why? A servant with a role is still a servant. A servant without a role is still a servant. God will take care of you. A psalm says, he will accomplish what concerns me. Well, what does that mean? It means God has your back. God is tending to you. Learn how to, in the midst of feeling like you need to be able to do this, or you want to do this, or make this happen, or let's do this music instead of that, etc. We need to learn how to defer, how to pray more than we say, how to allow God to change hearts around us, how to, in the process of us trying to get our own way, as the book of James says, in some ways internally, stomping our feet till we get our own way, how to grow up beyond what my wife calls ETS, extended toddler syndrome. I go through it regularly, so I'm speaking as one who's been there and bought the t-shirt. We want to learn how to get beyond that, how to say, thank you for this opportunity, Lord. Thank you for those who are leading, who said yes to this. Thank you for this, but I am as willing to mentor someone else and get out of the way. or just to step off the platform for a period of time so others can do their thing, or maybe step away and allow God to make a way for me or create a space. Maybe God wants to do what I've seen happen at many different points in people's lives who are involved in worship ministries that I led. There's a season where I feel like I need to say, I just feel like you need to step back from this for a time. And sometimes people have been, that's great, awesome. Let's hear God in this. I'm open to whatever he has next. They step away and God shows up. He starts to lead them into something they would never have had the time or energy to do because someone finally said to them, hey, I don't know that this is your first or second, maybe third order call. Or I just believe someone else needs to step in here for a season. Or I'd like to try and experiment. Or I feel like we need to go this direction, etc. When servants are all doing this together, our hands are open. I want to encourage you, when we talk about why we do what we do as worship musicians, as team members, that we keep our hands open in this thing. That we honor and serve one another with great humility. We consider others better than ourselves, which is hard. When pride is involved, some of us have an opposite struggle, and that's fear. That's where we hide ourselves when God is saying, don't hide. I'm actually asking you to step up to this. I, as a worship leader, have had to ask musicians, hey, I think you're hiding. I think this is false humility. I think it's time you actually stepped up to this and did this. And we worked through this on the ground as we're doing it, rather than you just stepping away. But there are other times to step away. There are other times to welcome being asked to step away for issues of the heart, for issues of just someone else needing to be raised up. God is doing something. We're being called to serve in another area. All those things are fine if we are servants first. Why are we here? Why do we do this? That group in that circle in that dream said, we are here to serve. Your spiritual business card and mine is in the hand of God. Our artistic capabilities, the years we've put into our instrument, even the lessons we're taking now, how we're trying to sharpen our skills, get better, all those things together are still acts of honor and blessing before God for him to move us as he will. And I've found in my role as a worship leader, one of my greatest joys and privileges has been to serve with musicians, with techs, with artists, creative leaders, with pastoral team leaders, other worship leaders who said, you know what, Dan, we're going to give you the grace to be wrong. Because we believe that God will take care of us in the process. And I know times when things just turned out so right, other times when God showed me, we need to reorder this. This wasn't the right direction to take. But because there was that humility, that honoring, I was able to move forward with freedom, with a sense of team, of community, of a real tribe going on in our hearts. People were willing to move around. I had electric guitar players who were some of the best electric guitar players I've played with in my life. Could touch any genre that I asked them to. Brilliant artistry. And I've said, we're down a sound person for like the next 2 months. I don't know how to train someone fast, but you happen to know this. It's kind of a third or fourth order thing I know you like to do. And they were like, I'm on it. I'll do whatever I can do to do that. Now, not everyone can do that all the time. Not everyone's called to do that. But I know how grateful I was that they stepped away from that guitar. They moved back. They started to train and mentor some other sound techs in our church when we were in a smaller church setting. And I'll tell you, it made all the difference in the community, the heart. We were moving. We were mobilized. I remember calling up a backup singer who was a wonderful, gifted singer and saying, I'm not calling you about leading worship with me this Sunday and the team. I'm calling you because there's a woman who's dying of cancer in a hospital room right now. And her sister-in-law has asked us to come and sing songs of worship with her while she's so close to death. And she said, immediately, we're there. And I took her and some others came and we worshiped in that hospital room for, I think it was an hour or two. And then later on that day she died, and we talked together. I talked with her husband and with her sister-in-law and others who had touched that whole experience, and they said just how meaningful, how rich that was. And I said, that only happens because my worship team people are servants. I ask him to do that, and there's a response of, my answer is yes, unless it has to be no. I know he's honoring his family at the same time that he's trying to step up to what God's called him to do. I also have people who look at me and say, you know what, I'd love to do it. I just feel like that's a no in my heart right now. I can't do it and still keep my margins and borders in my life. I say that's awesome. That's awesome because we're servants together. We're learning to grow together. We're not burning out for Jesus. We're not hiding ourselves somewhere in the middle. We are serving. And why are we serving? We're serving the community of God, meeting with the God who loves us, whose already all-consuming love is transforming their lives through the week. And when we gather together, we are simply creating a space for all of us to say, how about here? How about now? Let's sing the songs of Zion. Let's meet with God. Let's join our voices together in prayers, in celebration, in joy as a community. Let's weep and mourn together. Let's celebrate and laugh and sing together. Let's be the people of God. So why do you do what you do? I want to encourage you to walk away and ask yourself that key question. And then after you've asked yourself that, then come to that place of saying, why are we here? Why are we and our team here? We are here to serve. I believe with all my heart, after 20 plus years of leading worship and connecting with teams all over the place, that is the kind of heart attitude that God honors, that God prospers, that God puts his favor on and blesses over the long haul of a worshiping community's life together. Why do we do what we do? And we all say together, we are here to serve. We are here to serve. Bless you as you continue to give God your spiritual business card, as you continue to remember why we do what we do as a worship ministry.